Quarterbacks and Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeesh.
The Bucs also added Rob Gronkowski to their lineup, while Kansas City will rely on former LSU running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You got to lose one of them names in the backfield. So, Acho, who has the more lethal offense, Brady's Bucs or Mahomes' Chiefs?
Marcellus, I'm going to take you somewhere before we land, sir.
Okay.
If this is tough. This is tough.
This is tough?
I'm going to lead with
like
the headline, and I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to lead with the headline. It's the Chiefs.
Is that your choice?
That's the choice. It's the only correct answer. But here's why. Marcellus, if you were having if you're driving a car, right, the most efficient way the car can be driven is through three attributes. You have to consider three things if talking about efficiency.
Tesla, electric?
No, sir.
Okay.
Who is the driver?
Real.
How capable is the car? And the manual. Right? How descriptive is the manual? Who's the driver? How capable is the car? And is how descriptive is the manual,
You read
right?
your manual before in your car?
You better, because I'm going to tell you, the mistake I made is I didn't. Yeah. I'm a car guy, okay? I got two cars right now. I got me a Bentley and I got me a Range Rover.
Convertible,
okay?
Bentley.
Chill out. We ain't got to tell the world. But the problem was, see, I didn't read the manual to the Bentley, so I didn't realize, the back has massages in it. You see, I'm sitting here, right? Got a little massage in it. See, when I talk about the car, the Buccaneers, they may have the better car. They have the better weapons. You got Godwin, you got Evans, you got Gronk, you got Brady. You about to see where I'm going now. You got Fournette, you got Ronald Jones. You see where I'm going. They have the better car. See, but the Chiefs, they win with the other two things because they have the better driver in Patrick Mahomes, and they have the better manual in Andy Reid calling the shots. They have the better manual in the better playbook, and how well can Patrick Mahomes, the driver, how well can he orchestrate and facilitate the car based on his digestion of the manual? And so while the Chiefs, the Bucs, I can concede, okay? I'll concede to that. I'm going to beat you at your own game, beat you at your own argument.
Here we go again.
And I'm going to concede to the fact that the Bucs have the better offensive roster. But the Chiefs have the better best player, and the Chiefs have the better manual in Andy Reid, and therefore the Chiefs have the better offense.
Okay, so we're going to take it from better roster in terms of talent and go more lethal offense because you're saying, how are you going to execute with that talent?
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
Okay, and you got me lost in driving with you and riding with you because you got to the wrong destination.
I was between the yellow lines, Marcellus. I was between the lines.
Tell that to the officer, okay? I don't know where you went, but you went off course. Here's the one thing. I think it's a little premature to say that Patrick Mahomes is a better driver than Tom Brady. I know you don't want to go career accomplishments.
We can't.
It's irrelevant. So now you want to go, well, right now in this moment.
Absolutely.
And then it makes me say, well, last time they faced each other in a high-pressure situation, high-leverage moment was the playoffs a couple years ago, and I wonder who advanced out of that.
The year Mahomes was MVP? You're referencing that year?
Yeah, the year he was
NFL
but
MVP.
Didn't go to the Super Bowl.
Because somebody jumped off sides? You're talking about that year?
Fantasyland again. I know that's where you drove me to Fantasyland again. Nacho's favorite place, Fantasyland, where ifs are fifths. Let me tell you this. I think it's a little premature, even though, look, if I'm building a roster going forward, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, those are the two quarterbacks I'm looking at, not Tom Brady. But we can't sneeze at the weapons, and not just the weapons, but how they can execute. Let's talk about how they're going to be able to move the chains. Leonard Fournette was fifth in moving the chains and first downs on a sorry team. When everybody's like, we're going after you, Fournette, to stop you, he still went out there over 1,000 yards and actually caught, 70 balls out the backfield? Like, Leonard Fournette got hands with his big old thick boulders. People don't see that coming. Here's another thing. The best duo on the outside. Most lazy fans wouldn't think that Tampa Bay has the best duo when you think of the Chiefs' weapons. When you look at the Chiefs, you're like, look, they got three guys going out there, Hill, Watkins, and Hartman. You would think that those three guys would combine to have more production than the two in Tampa. Not the case.
Not the case.
Now you bring in the moxie. You bring in Tom Brady and his greatness. Maybe it's the yesterday's greatness that's going to mix with today's production and today's talent. That's where I'm driving my car. You just, as a defensive player, defensive coordinator, you're sitting in that room, coach got the red laser, we're watching video, and he's saying, this is how we're going to attack Tampa. He has nothing to say. It is quiet in that room. How do you attack Tampa?
This is what I love about this show. I love about you. I love about these conversations. I'm not ignorantly going to come up here and say, oh, the Chiefs are by far and away better. It's the Kansas City. That's not what I'm going to do. That's ridiculous. Look. Understand your opponent. When you're talking about your argument, and when I'm talking about the Buccaneers offense, you got Cameron Brate, Howard, you have Rob Gronkowski at tight end. That's 3 legit dudes. I don't even think one of them will be on the roster just because it's too many, but that's 3 legit dudes at tight end. Okay. You got Mike Evans at the outside. You got Godwin at the outside. Okay, I'm going to play too high. I'm going to keep my safeties rolled back. Well, now you have Ronald Jones, who's a multi-versatile running back, but more importantly, you got Leonard Fournette, who is a killer at running back. So I understand the Bucs, and I understand that they had the 3rd-ranked offense last year. I am not simply going to sit here and try to undermine what the Bucs do and how lethal their offense is. But when I look at the Chiefs, you still have speed. And what you can't coach against, what you can't guard against is speed. Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, who literally go by the name Cheetah. At his ring ceremony 2 days ago, he wore a leopard or cheetah print outfit because he understands he embodies speed. Okay. But then most importantly, Marcellus, you have the man who threw 50 touchdown passes 2 years ago, was NFL MVP.
Brady did that a long time ago.
That's my point. Long time ago.
Whatever.
But then you also have the Super Bowl MVP. But more.
No, Brady did that a long time ago.
But most importantly, you got the head coach in Andy Reid, who to me not even to me, statistically, he's accomplished more than Bruce Arians. So it's a tough argument. It genuinely is. But if you're telling me who am I more scared of, I'm not just scared because of the threat of the Buccaneers, because that's what it is right now. Tom Brady intimidates you because of his shadow. You feel you?
I got you.
Rock with me. Rock with me. He intimidates you because when you're walking down the alley, you see that shadow. It's like, uh-oh.
It rings all
who is behind me? All them rings. But then you turn around, you're like, oh. It's just an old man. And Patrick Mahomes, he's not a shadow. He's a legitimate threat. Now, defenses might turn around and see Tom Brady and be like, oh, it's not just an old man. It's still a bad man. Yeah. But right now, if I had to bet, if I'm saying who's more lethal, it's the Chiefs for them reasons.
Only thing is that shadow is coming with crew.
It is.
And that crew is deep and young. Tom Brady, in his career, talking about top 10 picks, he has 2 young top 10 picks, and he hasn't had that before. We're talking about, you got to go back to like 2012 when Tom Brady's had a top 10 offensive pick. And then he's only had 5 in his entire career. Now he has 2, and they're in their prime. Let's talk about the running game. Balance. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers running game was dead last in NFL over the last 3 years in terms of yards per carry. 3.7. Dead last. Now they're going to have that balance, and that's what Brady brings to it as well. You said they were the 3rd-ranked offense. That's in yards. 3rd-ranked also in points, higher than your Chiefs and Mahomes, even though I know he had injuries. All of that said, I see Tampa Bay getting much better with a 3rd-ranked offense, and I don't see the same thing out of the Chiefs. Let's bring in our guy, LeVar Arrington, to settle the score. Who has the more lethal offense? Brady's Bucs, Mahomes, Chiefs. Split it.
I come into this conversation and say it's the Bucs. If we're just looking personnel-wise, on paper, roster-wise, which I think you guys have done a great job of covering, it is the Bucs. But I think the most interesting aspect of this conversation is not the fact that we look at what Tom Brady has, because you can never sneeze or downplay or underplay what Tom Brady brings to the table in any regard. Not yet. They were pretty much undefeated last year. We could say it was his production that went down and the defense was the reason, but he has always been the common denominator in the success of the New England Patriots. I'm wondering, with all of these weapons, and when we get to real games and see how lethal this Tampa Bay offense can be, I almost feel as though all of this talent has raised the stakes to such a feverish level where Tom Brady does not get a free pass in terms of what his achievement should or could be this season. So if we come back to this discussion later on and we see that Kansas City is doing tremendously better than what Tampa Bay is doing and what Tom Brady is doing, I almost feel like the more talent that continues to go on to this Tampa Bay roster, the higher the stakes get to what Tampa Bay or what Tom Brady's legacy will be if he's not able to show that all of that talent is the reason why he came to Tampa Bay and why he left New England.
LeVar, here's my problem with your argument, and you're a reasonable person, so I'm going to prod at it. I think it's a lazy take. I think it's a lazy narrative to not just you, but I think the majority of the fans will side with you and Marcellus in saying that, oh, the Bucs have the more talented roster. But just having the more talented roster and you better than me and Marcellus, because you were a higher level player at a more detailed position, say linebacker.
Wait. You mean in college or pro?
Linebacker, pros. Linebacker has more.
That's my dog.
Bump all that, though. Linebacker has to know more than a defensive lineman. You should know better that it's not just about who are the pieces, it's also who's moving the pieces. So knowing that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are on the same side, can you still say that the Bucs are more lethal? Because those two are the ones that conduct the pieces.
The reason why it's not a lazy take is because it's a very practical approach to what we're thinking lethal can be. If you look at even with Gronkowski coming back the way that he has, his production will be assumingly, good, pretty good. All the other guys that are out there, did I freeze up on y'all? When you think about all of the other players and all of the components that are connected to this Tampa Bay team, I don't think it's a lazy take at all to consider that one, the NFC South is not a very difficult division to play in, for one. For two, Bruce Arians is one of those guys who understands how to deal with that amount of talent. And I think one of the major points here is you're talking about two receivers that were in the top 10, I want to say, in receiving yards total last year. I think there's only maybe one or two groups that can say that they have a receiving core that had two guys in the top 10 in terms of yardage. I just don't see it being a bad thing that they have a more lethal offense on paper than the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think that's lazy at all.
No, I don't think it's lazy at all, because right now it's all hypothetical. The game is played on grass or on turf, not in our minds. So right now we have to respect that we're going with the hypothetical. So then you start to say, well, what does your ammunition look like? And I'm looking at the ammunition of the Kansas City Chiefs, and basically I see, other than Hilaire being added, I just see the maturity and growth of that team, but I don't know how I'm going to measure that differently than the maturity and growth I'm going to see from Tampa Bay, plus the added talent. You talk about the fact that LaShawn McCoy might get cut. LaShawn McCoy might not even make this roster for other reasons than just talent, but still, he's not even the top running back on this team. And you're talking about a team that was third ranked last year offensively. It'd be different if they were 27 and then they added all these guys and you're saying, how are you going to leapfrog the fifth ranked or sixth ranked team in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs with points and yards? But they were already better than the Chiefs last year, and they've added more talent than the Chiefs.
I have issue, Marcellus.
That's not lazy.
I have issue because what you just did, I have to poke a hole in. Not even a hole. That's a gigantic gaping void in your argument. LaShawn McCoy, remember where he came from. Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. Biggest game of their season. Places. The Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, LaShawn McCoy wasn't even active.
He was chilling.
He wasn't even active.
That's my point. So we're not even adding him to Tampa Bay because he ain't going to count. Correct. We're talking about everybody else.
My point is this. The argument y'all are making, there's a lot more guesses involved. Because y'all are saying that, okay, Tom Brady, we're going to assume that with all these weapons, we're assuming that they're going to make a bigger jump.
Gronk is an assumption? Leonard Fournette is an assumption?
You're assuming, but you're assuming that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be the exact same productive team that they were last year.
That was less productive than Tampa.
But that's a much safer assumption that this team.
Why would we make that a safer assumption?
Because they're not changing any pieces. They're not changing any pieces.
Well, Hilaire's going to be the starting running back. That's what they want, at least. And look, he hasn't improved anything on this level. At least everyone we're adding has actually done something on this level.
That's fair.
And they already had the best wide receiving duo, despite the reputation that Kansas City has the best wide receivers. And they got a quarterback that's like, oh, that's cute, one ring. That's on one of my hands. I have 5 on the other one, and you're adding me around all these pieces. I talked about the top 10 picks that Brady has not been able to play with. Let me pull this up right now as I speak on my Face ID. Look at these names. Look, he has 2 top 10 picks finally now. Terry Glenn, J.J. Stokes, Kyle Brady, Joey Galloway, Fred Taylor, my dog, and Kellen Winslow II. Those are the only top 10 picks Brady's ever had on his team offensively. And now you give him
And it was always late. And it was always late.
Yeah, man.
All
this
them
is gonna
stars,
be
and it
sick.
was
It's going to be
always
fun to
late.
watch because right now we're playing it between the ears. Let's see how it plays out on the field.